All right. Nice and smooth. Welcome to another episode of DCA Podcast. This is your host, Reverend Dr. Ruben Dockery. Grateful for each and one of you that can join us tonight. And you've been listening, as you have always, to Mr. Mario Abney, who we debuted and featured in our uh, 3-day fundraiser last month. And as you know, we have a 31-day fundraiser going on right now. And go to the website, www.dockeryacademy.us. That's DOCKERYACADEMY.US, academy.us. All right. And you'll learn a whole lot more there about it, particularly look at the current events tab. All right. But tonight, we're here for another episode. We were on hiatus on this past Thursday, the first Thursday of March, but this is our second Thursday of March, and we are back with the DCA podcast. All right, and we have a very, very important topic for you tonight. And the topic simply is elevation from school dropout to prison. Black male student risk factors. Now, you know, we've been discussing since we've been doing the podcast at the beginning of the year, we've been focusing on education. Of course, you know, DCA is an acronym for Dockery Christian Academy. And our focus have been on how and what we can do to reach young male students who struggle in school academically. We've used NAEP as other researchers and stakeholders have in the educational arena to kind of understand what the data says about certain pitfalls, certain failures, certain issues. And we've allowed that data to guide us to determine what is needed and how we can approach this thing from a research basis. Okay. So tonight, again, our topic is elevation from school dropout to prison, Black male risk factors. And as suggested in the title, for the next 30 minutes or so, what we will do is we will elucidate the risk factors for those, not all Black males, but for those who are in urban American schools, public schools, who are on the trajectory to drop out. We're going to identify when is the most prime time, the most likely time that is, and we're going to discuss some of the risk factors, okay? But more importantly, we're going to discuss how Dockery Christian Academy is positioned to address that right here in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where we hail from. All right, so let's get right into it for the next 30 minutes. So if you're following us on Facebook, I want to encourage you and to go there and send your questions and comments there. Shoot me, pose a few questions there. I'll try to answer them in real time as much as we can, and get with you there. We'll try to have a little live interaction here, okay? While we're on live here, live streaming on Facebook as well as on YouTube. And then, of course, we endeavor to place these on the website for all of the DCA community for future references. Okay, that's our intention. We endeavor to do that. And again, want to encourage you to go right there and check us out. All right. Having said all those, got rid of those preliminaries, let's get right into it. Again, tonight we're talking. This is the DCA podcast. This March 12th. 2026. And we're talking from the topic tonight, elevation from school dropout to prison, Black male student risk factors. How is it that so many of those, all of those who drop out of school, when is it, how is it that they drop out of school and wind up going to prison? Sadly, some of them don't make it to prison. They wind up in early demise, losing their lives in the streets. But what are the risk factors? That helps us to determine what we need to do to address the issue, right? The general issue that helps us to come up with that conclusion with that factor. All right. Let's get into it a little bit here. Now, to understand the cause of the high recidivism that we see among Black males in the criminal justice system, it's necessary, beloved, to examine their early social and academic orientation. In other words, what happened at home and in the school. You know, you go from first through 12th grade, kindergarten, really, through 12th grade, something happened, right? But before you got there, you went home. What was it about the home environment? The proverbial elephant in the room, if you will, is the fact that what happens in your early development at home, in your home environment, and your experiences, your level of preparation, engagement in your elementary and middle and high school, if you make it that far, education has a tremendous impact on what happens to you as an adult in latency in life or when you get older, right? Oftentimes, the opportunities that are available to you are limited as a result of it or increased. And so that's what we really want to look at here. Now, when you add the challenge for too many Black boys in America, Nashville, Tennessee, and beyond, urban America largely, and I know somebody would say, well, Black boys are not the only one that face fatherlessness. No, they're not. But all the data and the research suggests that a significant impact on those Black males who find themselves on the periphery of history, of society, face the common denominator, fatherlessness. When you add to fatherlessness, that as a primary issue, and the fact that these indicators, I'm going to list three of them for you tonight. Three indicators. One, this is what national academic data or indicators for urban schools. We're speaking on the national level, and we apply that to the local level because oftentimes they overlap. Okay, Black male students score reading than their white male counterparts. That don't make them a bad person, but it tells you there's a problem. The question is why. Two, a mere 13 to 15% of Black students reach proficiency levels in the content area, specifically math and reading. A mere 13 to 15%. So about 85% or more of them don't do so well, right? Question is why. And then three, achievement gaps persist and have persisted, certainly as indicated by NAEP, for decades. Now, if you ask me, what this represents is a formula for failure. And it explains why you are on the trajectory of the path of dropping out subsequently. Okay? And it also helps us understand why it is there are limited opportunities and the increased chances of engaging in criminal or illegal or in unethical, immoral behaviors. Not that you're a bad person inherently, but it's the social factors and these risk factors that we're talking about. Now, it's no mystery that when we look at it, these conditions of low reading proficiency. See, I said to you some time ago that from 0 to 3, you learn to read. And from 3 years on, you read to learn, ideally. But that don't happen for everybody that way, okay? But when we want to understand these issues and this path, this course, low reading proficiency indicators by 4th grade and low math proficiency by the 8th grade tells you something. I hate to be prophetic here on the place that we can break that cycle. That's what DCA, that's what Dr. Christian Academy is to break the cycle. But unless there's proper intervention, there's going to be historically, the data tells us that the outcome is the same. And sadly enough, it really doesn't matter what geographical area you're in or where you're located. The result is the same. Question is, who's going to do what about it? And how can we break that cycle? If you're concerned, like Dr. Christian Catter, yours truly, and Dr. Here's some things that we can take into account. Now, let's look at a few more things here, a few more facts here. I highlight these because oftentimes people think we just simply speak out of frustration or anger or political drive or somebody just hungry to do something looking for attention. Now, you're speaking to someone who has been an educator for some years now and have been in the fight to save this population of student learners, albeit right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay. But our concern has been broader. And as I shared with you earlier, the podcast that we had on Blog Talk Radio for about 10 years started from a traveling lecture series that I conducted, where we focused on risk factors for criminal behavior, juvenile delinquency, incarceration, and things of that nature. Okay. And we went to several cities. I won't go through them again now, but I've said them before. You can actually find that on the website under one of the tabs where we're discussing how we engage with parents and with students in the lecture series that we began in 2006, and subsequently the traveling seminar series. So as not to digress too much, I want to stay on point here. I brought that up to say that is the core experience that have guided me in this direction for Dr. Christian Academy, and most importantly, the ethos for the school and the philosophy and the structure and the direction. But data is important because it's a record of past performances. And under the condition that the past is prologue, you're going to get the same results. Our effort is to intervene and to stop that process from moving forward. Okay, that's our intention. Looking at it, Black male high school graduation nationally is about 73 to 77%. Now that's better. High school graduation. Now, question is, when they graduate, how prepared are they? Graduating from one grade level to the next, were they just socially promoted, or did they master the content? Did they master the content material? That is the real question. Because if they have not, we've seen in recent years how that works. You get out there, and when it comes to standardized tests, which we discussed earlier, when it comes to demonstrating ability to perform and to keep up, this population, particularly Black males, find themselves, even if they go on to post-secondary studies in a collegiate setting, taking remedial courses. And then it discourages them oftentimes, right? Those that make it there, with a smaller percentage of them. Now, so given this fact that so many of them tend to graduate, but ill prepared, that tells us that we need to focus on exactly how we're preparing them academically. Okay. All right. So then we look at the fact that in this age range of about 16 to 24 years old, we see that there's data that suggests about 5 to 6% of Black males tend to, that's the dropout rate nationally. You look at smaller the data in smaller geographic locations, that oftentimes is higher, right? And you look at a particular school district, you see that the numbers are significant. Now, 1 in 4 Black students uh, do not graduate on time. That means they, from the time they start with their cohorts in kindergarten, by the time they leave high school in 12th grade, they've repeated at least one grade level. And there is a psychological impact that that has on student, on the student learner. Not the student fault. I'm not blaming the student. I'm not going to even blame the parents. And guess what? I'm not going to blame the teacher. I'm going to blame the system. There's a systematic process that is guaranteeing failure for a certain population of learners. And unless somebody, Doctrine Christian Academy, intervenes, that continues. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I was not shocked but bothered by, another statistical data or data point. And that is that categorically we see from the research that, again, for this population, we're looking at it from a national perspective. And again, as you narrow this in to a specific school district or location, given the other social economic factors and what have you, this number increases. But ninth grade is the year where Black males tend to drop out the most. Again, in certain states and certain local school districts, what we find when you look at it comparatively is it's as early as 7th and 8th grade. That's middle school, right? But their parents are kind of forced to keep them going to school. But by ninth grade is when they get in the most trouble. They wind up doing time in a juvenile detention facility. By the time they do that, they're set back a grade or two. And when they come back, you got this chronologically grown big boy sitting in the classroom with people that 2 or 3 years behind him or his junior. Don't feel so good. So the desire to go and get a traditional education and finish high school is gone. It's withered away. Again, that's not student fault, but systematically, it's a reality and a problem. Now, when we discuss this from a Afro-American perspective, I don't think it's healthy to take a position of anger. I don't believe it's healthy to look at this from the lens of race or even from the lens of discrimination. However, we do have to be honest about the fact that certain policy positions and apathy toward change poses a significant challenge to proactive engagement and the change that we need. That's the reason it don't happen, because not enough people are concerned enough to say, hey, something is wrong. Now, what happens is, in the politicization of this matter in education, people don't want to offend their friends who are school teachers, who work for the school system, because many teachers are working hard. Most of them working hard, right? You know, unfortunately, there are some bad apples, and that's in every profession, unfortunately. You know, police officers, teachers, preachers, preachers, social workers. You understand? There are some people that really not cut. It's not cut out for them. They probably should go find something else to do because their hearts are not there. You see, but I'm saying that to say that there are dedicated teachers who, because of policies on the district level or the systematic level, they become wrapped up in politics, resource, and opportunity, and focus is gone. So a small environment like Dr. Christian Academy offers provides the opportunity for parents to be directly engaged in the process of learning how to best support their children in their academic uh, growth and development. Don't expect parents to be expert teachers or nothing like that. No, 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 no. That's not the expectation. But when you understand your role as the first teacher at home and how the home environment shapes and begins the whole socialization process. In fact, if I might just for a second, Maria Montessori, you may have heard of the Montessori um, um, approach to teaching. She was a nun, I believe, in southern Europe, in Italy, poverty-stricken area, and she saw that the children that were coming to her were impoverished and what have you, and those conditions caused them often not to be really interested in learning things like math and reading and other subject matters. They were distracted. So what she did was create an environment by which she can isolate them from all these other distractions, right? And focus on the individual child's interest in learning, their skill set and desires, and to hone them out, right? To make sure that the chairs were suitable for them, for the child, that the classroom, the learning environment was most conducive and welcoming to the child, right? And it was about observation. And this is what we're talking about, parents being informed, engaged, and being aware of what it is that your individual child, the needs of your child individually. Now, I know that some people say, well, we can't afford to teach every child to spend a whole lot of money. And that's what we got to stop doing, is putting the money thing on it. Let money be a factor. It takes money. Yes, I know that. I know that. We're trying to raise money now. I know that. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, how we're going to raise money for that. But I realize that. However, uh, what we can do is be actively engaged with our elected officials and policymakers to ensure that the resources available are best used. See, that's the catch. I would argue that the resources that are currently available are not used the best in the interest of these children. Okay? Now, don't get upset about that. Ask yourself, how can I be a part of the solution? Brother Malcolm X, Malik El-Haj Shabazz once said, if you're not part of the solution, invariably you're part of the problem. And I don't want to be part of the problem. Do you? No, 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 no. We don't want to do that. That's not what we want to do. So our approach at Doctrine Christian Academy is to empower the parents to understand these facts and these factors, and then get their full buy-in on our approach and strategies for engaging these young men, right? Yes, that means that they have to be pulled away from all the distracting negative images and influence. It may mean that we have to do things to ensure that the time that they're on social media is reduced. The time that they're focused on academic instruction and engage in pro-social development is increased, right? There are only 24 hours in a day. You know that. And we gotta sleep, right? We gotta eat. But there's a time in the day where we should be focused on these, particularly these young men. And our age group, our learning span is 7th grade through 12th grade. So that's about 12, 13 years old. 12, 13 to about 18 years old, ideally. Okay. And you know this. That's a significant period of hormonal growth and development. And when you in the wrong place, you can have problems. I can speak from personal experience. um, and we take these things into consideration, right? Part of the pro-social orientation is to learn how to properly engage with young ladies and females, right? but more importantly, to understand yourself enough to be able to be honest with and engage yourself, you see, so you can bring out your best qualities, your best resources. All right. What I want you to do is to go to www.dockeryacademy.us. That's the website for the school. And then I want you to find a thing that says 40,000 founding builders. We're on this campaign. All throughout the month of March, we are raising funds. We've identified a specific location for the school, and it requires some renovations and some add-ons and so forth. And this allows us to um, purchase textbooks and materials for our students and pay for our teachers and things of that nature, right? So when you go there, make your contribution. We're looking for 40,000 dedicated people. 40,000 dedicated people. Give at least $100. Give at least $100. All right. And when you do that, we're on our way. We're on our way. Some, thank God, some have given already. In fact, one husband and wife gave more than we asked. Okay. You can do the same thing, but at least a minimum of $100. When we do that, we'll reach our goal and we'll be able to report to you that we have met that goal and making progress. Okay. So um, I'm going to look at Facebook here to see if somebody has posted a question. You have a question or comment, go ahead and shoot that in Facebook right quick, and I'll try to answer for you. I want to thank those that are watching. Looks like we have a few people watching us live here on Facebook, and we hope that our YouTube channel will grow even more. Subscribe if you're there watching it. Subscribe, and we'll be happy to again engage with you. If you want to reach me by phone, you can reach me by 615-498-4669. And my email address is Ruben, that's RUEBEN, at dockeryacademy.us. All right, Ruben at dockeryacademy.us. That's our email. And again, the phone number 615-498-4669. We began the school with the online portion. We have a blend between online and in-person learning, and we're starting with the online process. Very, very soon, our goal is to start to directly engage the parents and the students in interactions around Nashville, and then formally bring the students online into of course. Many of them right now are in school. We don't want to disrupt that too much, but we want a smooth transition so that by the end of May and going into the summer, we can open up significant academic engagement and what have you. Assessments, conducting assessments and things of that nature in preparation for the next fall year. Okay. All right, all right, all right. With that being said, I think we have gotten to a point where we're about at our time now. And Yeri, thank you. I see you there. Shelton, thank you so much. Um, I want to wrap up by reiterating the fact that you've been listening to the DCA podcast. This is your host, Reverend Dockery. And tonight we've been talking from the topic elevation from school dropout to prison. Black male student risk factors. It doesn't have to happen. And you and me can ensure that it does not happen. We can turn that around. Help us out. Go to the website, www.dockeryacademy.us, and you'll find the information there. We've been working on the website to make it user-friendly and informative. All the information you need to support our fundraising campaign there. Throughout the month of March, we are focused on raising those funds, and that will enable us to do everything that we set out to do by way of our goals and objectives. All right, we're going to end as we always do with Mr. Mario Abney. He is the baby son of the gentleman, the late Prophet Robert Lee Dockery. the gentleman in whom the name is named after. And with full transparency, that's my father. Okay. It does have my last name, but it's not because of me, it's my father. And there's a history there that explains why. What did he do? What was his contribution to America, to society? I think you might, I know you will be very intrigued to find it on the website, www.dockeryacademy.us. Right there on the homepage, you'll see that information about his story and how we came about as a school. All right. This is your host, Reverend Ruben Dockery. Again, we thank you. We're going to end with Mario Abney. And this song right here is Up Goes the Prophet.